The morning sun spilled across Fort Granite like molten gold, lighting up rows of armored vehicles, concrete barracks, and marching formations that moved with mechanical precision. It was another routine day on the base. Routine for everyone except the woman who had just stepped through the main gate. She wore plain combat uniform. No decorations. No visible rank insignia. Just crisp fatigues, boots polished, but not flashy, posture straight but unassuming. Her dark hair was tied back into a regulation bun. Her face carried calm. Not softness, not arrogance, just control. Most people didn't even notice her, but one soldier did. Private First Class Logan Mercer leaned against a supply crate near the motor pool, laughing loudly with two others. He was young, broad-shouldered, and carried himself with the exaggerated confidence of someone who hadn't yet learned humility. "Hey," Mercer called out as the woman passed, his voice dripping with mockery. "Lost, ma'am." She stopped, slowly, turned to face him. "No," she replied evenly. "I'm exactly where I need to be." That should have been the end of it. It usually was, but Mercer smirked. "Funny, because this area is restricted. Officers only. And you don't exactly look like one." A few nearby soldiers glanced over. Someone chuckled. The woman studied Mercer for a moment, her eyes sharp but unreadable. "Then maybe you should report me." Mercer laughed. "Or maybe you tell me your rank first." The air shifted, not dramatically, just enough that seasoned soldiers felt it. A quiet tension, like pressure building before a storm. "My rank?" she asked. "Yeah," Mercer said, stepping closer. "Because unless you outrank me, you're about to get escorted out." She tilted her head slightly. "Is that so?" Mercer nodded. "Rules are rules." A captain across the yard froze mid-step. A sergeant near the armory stopped talking. Somewhere, a flag snapped sharply in the wind. The woman reached in her pocket, not hurried, not defensive, and pulled out her ID. She didn't hand it to Mercer. She clipped it calmly on her chest. The name read, Evelyn Cross. Below it, in small but unmistakable lettering, were 4 silver stars. A Mercer smile faltered. .1 star would have meant Brigadier General. .2. Major General. .3. Lieutenant General. .4. His mouth went dried out. A 4-star general. The laughter died instantly. Mercer snapped to. Attention so fast his boots scraped concrete. "G General, at ease," General Evelyn Cross said quietly. The entire motor pool had gone silent. "I asked you a question," Mercer stammered. I didn't know." "That's correct," she replied. "You didn't." She stepped past him, her presence suddenly immense. Every step echoed authority earned through decades of fire, blood, and command. "You assumed," she continued, "and assumptions get people killed." Mercer swallowed hard. "Permission to apologize, ma'am." She stopped, turned, and for the first time there was something in her eyes. Memory. "Tell me something, Private Mercer," she said. "Do you know why I don't wear my stars all the time?" He shook his head. "Because I want to see how people behave when they think power isn't watching." Her gaze swept the yard. And today I saw enough. Within minutes, officers flooded the area. Salutes snapped into place. Whispers spread like wildfire. A 4-star general had walked the base unnoticed. But what no one knew, what Mercer couldn't possibly know, was that Evelyn Cross wasn't just a general. She was a legend, and she hadn't come to Fort Granite by accident. The moment General Evelyn Cross took operational control of Fort Granite, the base stopped being ordinary. IT didn't happen with an announcement. There are no speeches broadcast over loudspeakers, no dramatic ceremony. Change arrived quietly, like pressure shifting deep underground, until suddenly everything felt different. Morning formations became sharper. Conversations dropped in volume when she passed. Even the wind felt disciplined, snapping flags straighter, harder. General Cross was everywhere and nowhere at once. She appeared at dawn runs without warning, jogging alongside recruits half her age without losing breath. She sat unannounced in after-action reviews, listening more than speaking. She ate the same bland meals in the mess hall, tray balanced in one hand, eyes always observing. Most generals commanded from offices. She commanded from presence. Private Mercer felt it more than anyone. From the day she assigned him to her personal oversight, His world narrowed to exhaustion, discipline, and brutal self-reflection. She didn't yell. She didn't threaten. She simply demanded more than he believed he had. Again, she said quietly as he collapsed after a timed obstacle run. His lungs burned. His vision blurred. "Ma'am, I again." And he did. During weapons drills, she corrected his stance with a tap of 2 fingers. During classroom instruction, she asked questions no manual answered. "Why do you salute?" she asked once. "Respect for rank, ma'am." She shook her head. "Wrong. You salute responsibility. Rank just reminds you who carries it." Word spread quickly. General Cross was not to be underestimated, not to be gamed, not to be disrespected, not because of fear, but because of the weight she carried. Stories began circulating. Old sergeants spoke in low voices about her first command overseas, about an ambush that should have wiped out an entire platoon, but didn't, about a night raid where communication failed, air support vanished, and she led from the front with a fractured arm, refusing evacuation. She walked out with every soldier alive, one master sergeant said, and the enemy never saw her coming. Others talked about the price, about the husband buried at Arlington, about the daughter she saw twice a year, if lucky, about the nights she stayed awake long after lights out, staring at maps like they were faces she couldn't forget. Mercer overheard it all, and for the first time in his life, shame felt heavier than punishment. One evening, after a 12-hour training cycle, Mercer lingered as she reviewed reports alone in the operations center. "Ma'am," he said quietly. She didn't look up. "Speak." "I didn't just disrespect you that day," he said. "I disrespected everything you earned." She closed the folder slowly. "You disrespected yourself first," she replied. "That's harder to fix." He nodded. "I want to be better." Her eyes met his. "Then stop wanting. Start becoming." 2 weeks later, Fort Granite received an emergency alert that a joint training exercise in the Northern Range had gone catastrophically wrong. A simulated enemy force, controlled by an elite red team, had overwhelmed 3 platoons. Communications were down. Weather conditions were degrading fast, and on paper, it was still an exercise that in reality, soldiers were trapped in freezing terrain with failing equipment and rising injury reports. General Cross took the call herself. She listened, asked 3 questions, then stood. "Scramble the command staff," she said. "This is no longer theoretical." The base moved like a single organism. Helicopters prepped. Mid-teams mobilised. Command maps lit up with moving markers. The base commander hesitated. "Ma'am, doctrine says we wait for confirmation from regional." She cut him off with a look sharp enough to silence decades of rank. "Doctrine doesn't feel cold. People do." She turned to Mercer. "You're coming with me." His heart slammed into his ribs. "Mom, you want to learn responsibility?" she said. "You're about to carry some." The flight into the mountains was violent. Wind buffeted the aircraft. Snow hammered the hull. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. On the ground, chaos reigned. Units were scattered. One platoon leader was injured. A second had gone missing during a simulated extraction. The red team had pushed beyond planned parameters, turning the exercise into a tactical nightmare. General Cross stepped into the storm like it was an old enemy. She took command without ceremony. "Establish perimeter here. Medical there. Mercer, give me eyes on that ridgeline." He ran. Orders flowed from her like a current, clear, calm, precise. She anticipated failures before they happened, redirected assets mid-movement, rerouted medevac through terrain others had dismissed as impassable. When a squad was pinned down in a ravine, she personally moved forward, rifle in hand. Not firing, but leading, Mercer watched her disappear into whiteout conditions, her figure swallowed by snow and wind. For the first time, he was afraid she wouldn't come back. She did. She always did. 6 hours later, every soldier was accounted for. Injury stabilized. Hypothermia prevented. What had started as a training failure ended as a case study in leadership under pressure. Back at Fort Granite, no one spoke as she removed her gloves, hands red and raw. "This base passed today," she said simply, "because people chose discipline over ego." Her gaze found Mercer, and because some learned faster than others. That night, Mercer couldn't sleep. Neither could she. She stood alone on the parade ground long after midnight, stars blazing overhead, for silver ones glinting on her chest. She thought of the first time she wore them. The weight, the silence that followed, the distance it created between her and everyone else. Power was lonely. Always had been. Weeks passed. Fort Granite transformed. Complaint rates dropped to near zero. Performance metrics soared. Even morale, once brittle, solidified into something resilient and real. General Cross prepared to leave on her final day. The entire base assembled. She stood at the podium, gaze sweeping over thousands of faces. "When I walked this base without insignia," she said, "I saw who we are when we think no one important is watching." She paused. Leadership is not volume. It's example. Respect is not automatic. It's earned daily. She looked directly at Mercer. Ranks will fade. Titles will pass. But the way you treat people when you think you have power, that stays with you forever. She saluted. Every soldier returned IT. A S or convoy rolled toward the gate. Mercer stepped forward, voice steady. "Ma'am, thank you." She met his eyes one last time. "Carry it forward," she said. "That's how legacy works." The gate closed behind her, but Fort Granite would never be the same. Neither would he.